Hey everyone, this is Dan Thompson with Wise Money Tools. Glad you could join me today. So this video is going to be a little bit off the beaten path of normal conversation because I got scammed this week. Yep, got scammed. And I kind of want to talk about a couple things to maybe one, help you so that you never get scammed like this. Number two, talk about what maybe good business practices are. Especially for these young guys, these young entrepreneurs or guys buying into their own businesses or starting their own businesses, and just talk about some good business practices. So one of the things I did is I broke a couple rules that I've set for myself for the years. So what I was doing is I wanted to kind of revamp my website. So I looked around for a few guys and I ran into this one guy, and his ad looked like it was pretty good. I mean, he talked about a pretty good game of how talented he was, how long he's been doing it. He even had some price ranges, and it fit kind of into what I wanted to spend to revamp the website. I wasn't starting fresh, wasn't starting new, just kind of wanted to get a new look and feel. Shouldn't have been that big of a deal. And what I should have learned, rule number one, is when somebody kind of oversells themselves, you can kind of realize, oh, okay, maybe this guy's going a little bit too far. So he was, just telling me how great he was and his abilities. And so the first kind of spidey sense I got was this guy's way overselling his abilities. Then after he got started, what he did is we kind of came to a price, and literally by the time he sent me an email, he'd already increased the price. And I thought, okay, he's already, trying to work me over. So I give him a call and I say, okay, look, we agreed on this price, but let's go ahead and split it in the middle. So I ended up paying a little bit more than we had first agreed on. Then right as he started working, he started complaining. Oh man, this wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And all these different little things, talking about how the website already had too many plugins in it and it was slow, and all these things that he either should have checked out first or was just making some kind of excuses. The next thing he said was, oh, you have to have a specific theme if you want it to look like that. Now, a theme is just something that you can, in this particular case, it's a WordPress site, so you can go buy themes. And so he convinced me that he had to have this specific theme to make it work. So I said, okay, I'll buy the theme. So I ended up buying the theme, sending it over to him. He got it uploaded. And here's where my second clue that he was a scammer, so to speak. See, these themes, when you buy them, they kind of come pre-populated. You've probably seen them, the Ipsen Lauren, they'll take content and they'll just put some gibberish in there, or they'll put an image or a photo, just so you can kind of get a feel for what the website would look like. And then you go back and you start putting in your content and your images and all that. Well, this theme came and it was already pre-populated. But what he tried to tell me is that he spent hours and hours populating the theme. And I'm like, well, wait a second. Why would you do that? If you're going to spend hours and hours populating the theme, why wouldn't you do it with my content, right? Why would you populate some bogus stuff just so you can, pretend that you're working? And we both knew he was giving me a line and he was lying to me, because the themes, like I say, they come pre-populated. Anyway, what ended up happening is he made it so my website wasn't working. And for 2 days, my website was down. And, our website gets a lot of traffic, and we get a lot of potential people who want to talk to us. And so having that website down, could be very costly. But what he ended up doing is he just held it hostage. And he basically said, you're not going to get your website back up unless you pay me more money. Well, here I am. I'm like just frustrated as can be with, I have no website. I still don't know, even if I give him some more money, if he's going to get it up. I'm just at my rope's end. So I finally, give in. I give him some more money. Website gets up, and I quickly call my hosting company, ask them how to change passwords and everything so he can't get in there again. So anyway, it was just a big mess, just a big scam from the very beginning. And I kicked myself for not being more, cautious. And I definitely would not be paying to have a website done unless I could see steps along the way and make sure that they're actually providing the content and all the things that make up a website before you start paying them. Anyway, what I also want you to kind of take from this is if you're a young entrepreneur, a young businessman, even someone who's been in business a while, I just can't emphasize enough how critical it is just to be honest. Just to, it'd be better to make no money on a particular deal, so to speak, than to cheat someone out, or even if they felt like they were cheated. Oftentimes, guys in their selling process, they over talk, they oversell, if you will, and they shoot for the moon on their abilities. And when it doesn't kind of live up to those abilities, it makes the client or the customer frustrated because of what you promised they could give them. So it's always better to back down your promises, your abilities, and you'll find that if you undersell and overperform, people are really going to love that. So one of my sons has a private school. It's an entrepreneurial school right now for elementary age kids going into middle school next year and expanding as he goes. But this school is all about honesty and integrity and being your own hero and making your own way. And you go in and you have these objectives and you set your goals. It's so far from a traditional style school. And the kids as a whole, their community, they hold each other responsible for their goals and their objectives. And they get these little rewards and badges along the way. It's really incredible. I'm really impressed with how it works. But one thing that it teaches these people or these young kids is that, number one, it's okay to fail. In fact, failing, you probably learn more than just having continual success. Number two, living with honesty and integrity. Number three, when you set your goals and objectives, set them far enough out that it makes you stretch, and just things like that. Anyway, it's just a great school. And it, like I say, it kind of makes the kids hold themselves accountable to each other. And that's a great thing. Unfortunately, they don't teach that in schools today, or very little of it. And kids are kind of just told what to do, and they become minions. And unfortunately, they don't learn to think and do and be who they really are meant to be. My other son started out early on. They had a pest control business, and it was just important for him to just make sure every customer thought they were getting their money's worth, that they were treated fairly, that they were treated with courtesy. And I remember him coming to me one time, and he just said, he just can't seem to please this one customer. And they had a guarantee so that if you ever saw any bugs or spiders or whatever, they'd come back and reshoot the place. And these people had called him 2 or 3 times and happy to go out there and do it because they wanted to make sure they were given their guarantee. But this one particular customer just was almost impossible to satisfy. And I just told him, I said, look, this is going to cost you. There's no doubt about it. But if you have to go out there 10 more times, just do it. And then maybe you can talk about maybe having them find somebody else, but do it in a very courteous manner, that maybe you're not just living up to their expectations. And by doing that, you'll always feel better about yourself. You might lose a little bit of money, but you're going to, feel good about the way you treated that customer, and hopefully that customer will talk highly of you in the end. And that's just exactly what happened. And time went by. They asked the customer if they'd like to, have another, company. They actually didn't. And what happened is the customer just became a really good customer. They really appreciated that upfront integrity, so to speak. And, we find it in all walks of life. I find it in my financial business, of course. We also have a home building business, and sometimes we can get overrun, if you will, from our new buyers. And so what we learned after, kind of getting run through the ringer on a few homes, doing everything we can, we learned that we set expectations early. This is what you can expect. And look, every home has some flaws in it, and the different little things that you can talk about to help them understand that you're going to give them the best product for what they're paying. And it just seems to help, even though sometimes it's hard for us. So we just set our expectations with our customers now. We talk about some of the things we can do and what we can't do. And when they kind of get out of the budget, we want to make sure we can bring them back and let them know that we'll let them know if the budget gets overrun and that we can pull them back a little bit. So just little things like that. We just don't want to promise them the world and act like everything's going to be peaches and cream, because statistically speaking, it's just not. So going back to this guy who was, supposedly going to do my website, he was almost offended when I said, "Look, man, you're not living here. I don't know you well." And he just went off on what a great guy he was. I mean, he's so trustworthy, and he's just not that kind of guy. And he even swore on his mother's urn that he would never do anything that would compromise his, integrity, if you will. Well, that's another spidey sense that goes off for me, because I learned a few decades ago in some human behavior classes that if somebody has to tell you how trustworthy they are, how they can be believed, never have to worry about them letting them down, all the different things. If they have to go on and on and on about that, that's usually the guy who you just can't trust. All I wanted him to do is give me what I paid for. Or in the end, I said, "Hey, look, you can even give me some of my money back." I was even willing to let him keep some of it just to kind of help him save some face, because maybe he just didn't know how to do it. Maybe he thought he was more talented than he was, and he saw the task. Instead of just saying, "Hey, I can't do this, here's some money back," he kept telling me that it was my fault, that I was unreasonable, that I wanted more than I was paying for. And in the end, I just never got anything that I was paid for. Anyway, then it was interesting. He got mad at me. He started calling me all kinds of names as if I was the one that scammed him. And that kind of brought me to another problem I see sometimes, especially right now in this particular economy. I don't know if I want to call it an economy, but our society, so to speak. There's this entitlement attitude for people who are struggling, and even people who scam people. They think for some reason, if they suppose that you've got a few bucks, that it's okay to scam you. That you're one of those guys, you're one of those 1%ers, one of those rich guys, whatever. And whatever I do to you is justified because I'm a poor, hardworking person. And so if I scam you, no big deal. And it's just too bad that that's the attitude of so many of these guys. I mean, in the end, this guy was just, he was just a dirtbag and he's scamming people. And I don't know why they spend their time doing that, when if they just did the work, they'd probably have so much more business. In fact, I had told him early on, I said, "Hey, if this turns out well, I got a couple of business partners, we got a couple other sites." I mean, he could have had a whole lot more work to do. Could have really kept him busy for a while. So once he knew that we were pretty much done, that I was, I either wanted to get a website or some of my money back, and he wasn't willing to do either of those things. Now he really turned, he flipped the coin, but now he was this rich guy. It was so interesting because now he was laughing at me, telling me, I'm not poor, look at all the money I have. And he sent me 2 stacks of cash on countertops. But he didn't even have the sense to realize that this was 2 different countertops, 2 different backgrounds going on, 2 different types of money. One was wrapped in the bank wrapping, dollar bills, and then the other was in rubber bands. I mean, it was almost comical that he would send me these images of how rich he was. Like all rich people just keep stacks of money sitting in their kitchen on their countertops. Anyway, and then he started shooting me pictures of cars and how rich he was. So I really understood at that point. I was dealing with somebody who was a little bit maybe off, maybe bipolar, who, thought it was more important that he come out on top to scam me than to just do the work that he paid for. So I'm kind of done with this video, but I wanted to just really reiterate a couple things. Maybe it's my soapbox too, because man, I just don't like getting scammed. I'm so happy to, pay somebody who does good work and even give them a little bit of a bonus or a tip. I got no issue with that, but just to be purely scammed, that's really tough for me. But more importantly, I was hoping to get across to anybody who runs a business, wants a business, is an entrepreneur, just always be upfront, manage expectations, don't overpromise, be as highly honest and have integrity that you possibly can. And being in the financial world, we can't control everything. I don't have control over the economy, so we do the absolute best we can. And it's just imperative that you tell your clients exactly what's going on, and you do the very best you can to make sure that what you're telling them is accurate and true. Then you sleep at night. I have no problem seeing my clients. And if something doesn't go perfectly, we all know that those are some of the little things that can, that can be an issue. So be an incredible businessman, businesswoman, entrepreneur, and make sure that you do everything you can to make that customer happy, even if it means you lose a few bucks here and there, to make sure that that's never going to be a bad review for you. Okay, so that's a little bit on my soapbox. I hope that made sense. I hope this was a good video for some of you out there. We've got all kinds of good ones coming up, so don't forget to subscribe. If you ever have any questions, shoot them to questions@wisemoneytools.com. I'll answer them just as quick as I can. And in the meantime, if you ever want to have a strategy session, you can click on the time trade link below and we'll talk about your particular situation. All right, that's it for this video. Look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.